This, my, okay, just a follow-up on this, my custom cooling loop that I put into this system to cool my Quadro 4000 cards. Yeah. So, I finally got my radiator bracket in, got the radiator mounted to the case, so it's all good and secured. Got these right angle brackets here, so I don't have to kink the hoses or put too much force on the hoses to get them to go into the radiator. Got the fan controller here glued to the side of the radiator. Just a little hot glue holding that to the side, so it's not just flopping around. Got these custom fan grills on here, just to protect the fans and anybody's fingers or toes or whatever could happen to come that way. And up here, got the reservoir. You guys have seen this before if you've seen my other videos. System's been running for probably about an hour or so now because I was doing some cleaning around the house, not on the computer. And the cooling temperature looks like it's stabilized at 37.5. Or, wow. There we go. Anyway. So, yep, there's that. I've got it illuminated by a blue fan that's back here. Kind of got it just wedged in place between the hard drive and the case. Though there's a hard drive right here. It's my main system drive. And my reason for putting it there is because it fits, it lights up blue, and it illuminates the reservoir nicely. And of course, if you look through directly from the front, you can see the red fan in the back. Silver kill coil back there. Flow meter. Looks like it's spinning clockwise, it's here, but it's actually spinning counterclockwise. That just has to do with the refresh rate of the camera and how fast that thing's actually spinning. GPU temperatures 46 degrees. Take a look at the actual loop. There's that fan I was talking about. See the back of the reservoir there. In the middle there, you got the inlet to the reservoir, and to the right of that, you got the pump and the outlet. That line runs from the pump over to the radiator, out the case and out to the radiator, and comes back. That hose runs inside here, comes out here, goes into the water blocks on the GPU. Goes into the bottom one, comes out, goes into the top one, comes out, and then returns to the reservoir. As you can maybe kind of sort of tell from my previous video. I tried to clean up the cabling, but there's just so many cables in here, it's practically impossible. Seasonic power supply, 1050 watt. This thing can run a quad slide, and I'm only running a double, so hey, plenty of power. Still have me this little chipset fan down here. This pulls heat out of the case from the Quadro K600 that's sitting there in the bottom. That's my dedicated physics card. Kind of sort of pointless, I guess, but you know, why not? One more thing that you might find interesting. I have the graphics cards clocked to 650, 1575. The stock speeds are 475 and 1400. That's the highest the memory will go before I start getting graphical errors because the memory is getting clocked too high. And this is the fastest stable speed I've been able to get on the GPU. Now, I do not actually have this overclocked in EVGA Precision. EVGA Precision is not doing any overclocking, it's just showing me the heads up here. That 650, 1575, I've actually modified the BIOS. So it's actually written to the BIOS on the card to run at that speed. So if I lose my EVGA settings, I uninstall it, I reinstall Windows, or say I boot up Linux, the card will run at that speed regardless, because it's been programmed that way. And I haven't had any issues with that. So just requires a couple utilities, NV Flash to flash the BIOS, Rufus to create a MS startup disk on a USB drive, and Inbitter. It's BIOS update utility for NVIDIA cards. So, and the only reason I wrote this to the BIOS instead of keeping it in software is because they're water cooled, and you would not want to. It would not be a good idea to run these settings with a stock heatsink because it's just too much for that heatsink to handle. Water cooling or a good aftermarket heatsink is the only way that these cards can safely run that, because they just would otherwise get way too hot. But yeah, so that's kind of how things have been going. Hope y'all enjoyed my little video segue here. Getting to watch me mess up a graphics card. Seen them before and after. Whatever. Alright, that's it. And one more thing I forgot to cover. The price of all the parts that I put into this system. And also I mentioned my monsoon compression fittings. They have this special tool. Kind of shows you how it works here. I use one end to screw the center in, and then the actual outer ring. The tool fits around the tube hooks into these notches, and you can tighten it that way. And grand total of all the components that are currently in this liquid cooling system. So liquid cooling system, especially a custom loop, can add up very, very quickly. What was great was that I was able to buy the components a little at a time, so this wasn't a single big hit though. So by spreading this out over the period of a few months to get all the components, it wasn't, you know, hard to handle like buying a $300 graphics card would be. Alrighty. So this is not going to be the end of these videos. I've got more plans for this system. I got more plans for whatever. I actually happen to have a second one of these boards that I'm using kind of as a low-end, why the hell not mining rig. Just for grins and giggles. This is actually the same motherboard that's in my gaming rig, minus a CPU. I figured this would be perfect without having to do a lot of modification because it has 4 X16 PCI slots on it, which make it easy as a starter board since I happen to just have this laying around. Only issue with it is these memory slots are no good. However, the other CPU slot does work if I had another CPU. Anyway, that's all for now.